Okay, so hi, apparently after the last very engaging video, here comes a very not that engaging one about printers. How much do we actually use them today? Not a lot, really. And nowadays, when you do want to get a printer, there's actually typically about two kinds that you can choose for home use. We're talking about printers that print on garden variety paper, not 3D printers yet. So you have your inkjet printers and your laser printers. Very briefly, I'm going to talk about how those work. Before I'm going to go over to a very interesting historic kind of printer embedded in a typewriter that I got at a flea market last May 5th. So first of all, the inkjet printer, literally it says on a tin how it works. It just has 4 cartridges for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, or key, or just 2 of them for black and white and color, which on the command of the printer jet or drop a little bit of ink onto the paper. This does produce incredibly stunning photos, but other than that, it is not a great printing technology, especially if we, like nowadays, don't really print a lot anymore. My mom used to have an inkjet printer since 2007, and this year it has died, and she ended up getting the second kind of printer, the laser printer. It works in a fundamentally different way because, well, it uses a laser to draw the image on a drum which has been pre-coated with toner. And then the paper gets charged, and the static electricity in the paper attracts the toner to it in the last step, but only where the image is not yet drawn. In the last step, a fuser unit, a kind of thermal heating element, I couldn't put it otherwisely, basically just fuses the paper or fuses the toner to the paper so that you get a crisp, clean printout, just like with an inkjet printer, except photos might not look that great. My mom's laser printer is black and white, and even color laser printers don't really have the resolution for photos. So for photo printing, it's alright, but otherwise, because we really don't really do that a lot, I would actually say to myself that I will never allow an inkjet printer in my house, ever. Only laser printers, or in fact, whatever is under this cover. So let's have a look here. So I'm going to open it up, and there it is. We've got a typewriter, an electronic typewriter, and right in the back of here is a thermal hybrid printer. What does that mean? So what you're seeing right over here is the 1983 Brother EP22 electronic typewriter and serial printer. You can recognize that it's a serial printer because it has a female DE25 pin on the side. Others had a DE9, but this is DB25. The male version is RS-232 here, but if it's on a computer, it's actually an LPT port, and then the printer that you would connect it to would have like one of those Centronics ports that looks kind of weird. But anyway, that is male. It was actually behind this little cover. Not that shortly after purchasing the printer, realized that it had serial capability at all. I thought that was just to keep the lid in place. So only thing I really need is either a bunch of C batteries or a power supply like this one. I've actually used my lower printer to nicely label it up as being for my typewriter / printer. And if I wanted to connect this to a computer, I'd end up needing an RS-232 cable to USB. At least for my computer, I couldn't really think about how to put a card in it for RS-232. Maybe there is one that I could get, but the problem with USB to RS-232 adapters, I've actually measured one of those, and standard RS-232 requires 12 volts, but on the transmit line of the adapter, there's 5 volts. So don't assume that your USB to RS-232 adapter will work. By the way, this little top cover here is a bit dusty, fingerprint magnet, because you need to open and close it constantly while loading in the paper. Another little quirk is the power supply. So if I look over here, I've turned this one around to say it's send to negative and the edge is positive. That's the way it should be, at least with my particular kind of printer. Now, of course, your right plug into the socket because it's all standard. Whoops, something went out there. Or at least the last little weirdness, which is that this is a hybrid thermal printer. You can see right over here, that is not just one heating element like the fuser unit in a laser printer. It's actually a bunch of teeny tiny little heating elements that are designed to heat up thermal paper, which looks exactly the same as normal paper, except it has a thermal dye on it that becomes black when it's heated up. Now, unlike ink cartridges, which can dry out over time, or toner, which I've read lasts up to 3 years, I actually bought this typewriter printer thing, authentic 1983 thermal paper, and it apparently still works. You can't really read what's on here. However, I only had a couple sheets of this stuff, so yeah, I decided to get some new thermal paper instead, which actually also works. So let's actually switch this thing on again and have a look at how it is controlled in typewriter mode. However, if we have a look at the top of the case here, we can actually see 2 of these thermal ribbons as well. Now, these transfer ribbons are used if you want to use standard paper, and they can work just fine with the EP22 as well. I haven't tested them yet because I bought a new set of thermal paper. I only set it up first before I try them. But they should work. They've already been used quite a bit. So let's actually first have a look at what an electronic typewriter is, because it's effectively an evolution of the electric typewriter, which uses electrical assistance to make sure you don't really hit the keys that hard, because it in itself was an evolution of the mechanical typewriter. So let's have a look at what an electronic typewriter like this adds to the classic electrical typewriter, which is typed out whatever you typed, it printed to the paper. Let's turn this on using this button here. Now, currently it's in direct print mode, which means the thermal head over there just moves like this. As I type, it tries to print to a paper, but I haven't inserted that yet. We'll have a look at that last. Then we have the controlled printing mode, which what I type is stored in memory, and only when the screen runs out of characters does it start printing up the first character typed in and clear that out, moving to the next and then the next. Or when you hit the enter, of course, it prints the whole thing. You have the non-printing mode, which just does disable the printer. Interestingly enough, this is also a calculator, very much like a pocket-sized calculator, like the one I've seen in a short and in my last video. So there is, like, I type the equation and I hit enter to print the paper, then hit the equal sign. It remembered what it was. Then hit the equal sign again. There's a contrast control, and there are some other controls that repeats the last command. I haven't figured out what these two do. I haven't figured out these two either. Not these two. There's of course a shift, and shift lock on a typewriter works different than caps lock on a keyboard like this one. The caps lock just locks the letter part up, but the top parts with the numbers and special characters work as if the Shift hasn't been pressed down, which it hasn't. On Shift lock on a typewriter, however, in a mechanical typewriter, it would literally lift or shift the character up so that it would type the top half instead. Now I hold this Shift button down, it basically just switches to the uppercase character set. But using the Shift lock does the same thing. Second Shift is used for printing special characters like that, or a $sign. There's UK pounds, francs, which is an old French currency, and Belgian one as well. Yeah, don't really use that one anymore. It doesn't have a euro on it, but it does have the @ symbol. That's a very good history that I can't really do justice in this video. So instead, let's load in this piece of paper, which I've just typed some things on, and actually see what the typing quality of this direct thermal printer is. So I feed in the paper by using these buttons here. So there we go. Just let it go up a bit, move it up, and close it up. And now I'm realizing I'm on the wrong side, really. Yeah, sometimes shit like that happens. Or am I even on the wrong side? Okay. Oh, goes in blank first. Okay, like this. Yeah, some thermal paper brands don't really put a marker on the paper that tells you where it should go. Okay, there we go. Nope. Don't go back into the machine. Ah. Okay, it's all adjusted. We can see whatever I have typed. Okay, so when I type like this, it shows on the screen. And obviously I need to pull the thermal heating element system in place. Okay, the keyboard layout is a bit weird to get used to, but 22. There's some Dutch there as well, which was saying, yeah, new thermal paper in old typewriter. Let's hit the enter button and see what happens. Okay, so it works pretty well, should I add. I mean, it's not as great as a laser printer in terms of quality, but it certainly shares a lot of the other qualities of laser printers. Well, notably the longevity. I mean, I have years old thermal paper that still prints fine. You can read that. It's still not as jagged of a paper movement as compared to an inkjet printer. Even though I do have to type it myself, it's not as bad as an inkjet printer. And, well, it doesn't need any ink that could dry out or toner that could go bad or run out. It just works as long as you have the thermal paper for it. Of course, I couldn't really use it as a computer printer due to the server situation at the moment. Maybe I'll find a solution for that later on. But it does work as a pretty fun little typewriter. As compared to mechanical typewriters that I've used before, it's also vastly superior to those with the line-by-line checking on the display, though it does not have correction ribbon, so like some of the fancier models had a little like ribbon that could shock out any typos that you've made. This doesn't do that. But yeah, it's definitely kind of fun to use, and it's quite the historical note, because we still use thermal printers today in certain applications, especially where you need a lot of text-based printouts. For instance, at a checkout, I had like a thermal printer to the side that printed out the receipts. It actually led to one of the most frustrating problems I've sometimes had. Those didn't use sheets of paper like this one can use. Those use a roll of paper you put in, and those rolls of paper can run out, and I had to replace them right in the middle of a customer session. So this, in a sense, is just like one of those checkout thermal printers that is still in use today. And there are probably other places where thermal printers are in use as well, because they're just so flipping reliable and quite fast compared to their predecessors. Around the time of the thermal printer's existence and heydays, it wasn't really predecessors, they coexisted. That was called the impact printer that first used daisy wheels or IBM balls, and then switched over to dot matrix printing. Dot matrix had a quite inferior printing quality, and of course the printing quality of this machine and others like it is not as good as laser printers of today, but yeah, it is good enough for a quick little note to be written out with. For instance, transcribing from a dictation machine or something, it's good enough. But of course, I do know why typewriters like this one ended up fading out eventually, because we all had computers by the 1980s and 1990s. Brother actually sold this thing as a terminal printer for home computers for the era, which explains why it has the serial port on the side. But other than that, I think this is a fair little device, at least, just to play around with, or maybe make a little quick notes or something. It's not really great for everyday use, mostly because the thermal paper can get quite expensive. I may have paid about €15 for a pack of 100 sheets, whereas a pack of multiple times that worth of normal A4 paper is a lot cheaper. I mean, at a major Dutch online retailer, you can actually get like a pack of 500 sheets of A4 paper for €10, or 100 sheets of this thermal paper for €15. I don't think really, if I look correctly, that you could even find the thermal transfer ribbon to go along with the normal print paper in something like an EP22 at all. But at least it lasted from 1983, which was, at least it came out in 1983. I don't know when this particular model was made, the one I have. Apparently, if I look at the instructions, which fortunately I did have to read like this, it seemed like there were multiple models. Some of us just had the normal mode, like with the memory printing, and then terminal printing mode, which by the way shows right here as 300 baud or bits per second. Note, in not all cases does baud mean bits per second. We just use it in RS-232 to mean bits per second because we didn't find another word that means bits per second. But again, I couldn't get that to work. I tried setting it up via the CUPS system, like the integrated print server of Linux. Apparently it failed to detect the system, and even when I tried to connect directly to it to PuTTY, it didn't work. And then I tried to loop back the cable, so a loopback test to make sure that the cable works, which it did. So I just blame the fact that the cable has a 5 volts going through, and this expects 12 volts. That's the reason why it didn't work out. So I returned that cable. Could have gotten something like a Max 232 logic level converter, but that could add a whole lot of extra cost and complexity to this setup, which is already, yeah, I paid 15 euros for this thing and 15 euros for the thermal paper. And that stereo cable would have cost me 35 euros or something if I paid the bill, which I didn't, instead returning the thing. Okay, so even though I can't really use the Brother EP22 as a printer, I think it's going to be a very fun little typewriter, and obviously maybe I'll get some use out of it as a quick little device for writing out things. And, well, that's all that matters at this point. It's just that, yeah, it will find its use case. Even today, when, you know, you do everything on a computer or, please, you know, your smartphone, having a dedicated writing device can be a very handy thing to have. To quickly jot down an idea. So, see you another time. Bye bye. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do, please give a thumbs up and share this video with all your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.